Howdy, it's Jim Murado, and this is the middle of December 2024. We're in Lynch, Kentucky, and we are at Portal 31. We're about to take a Portal 31 mine tour. A very cool attraction into a legit old mine that's been there forever. And we had a really good time. This was a really cool attraction, by the way. It's very underrated. Lynch is an underrated area. Make sure you call ahead. Make sure they're going to be open. Nick runs the place. We'll meet him in a moment. We got there right when they were going to open, but he had some stuff to fix. He was really cool about it, though. He just asked us to come back in an hour. We ended up getting our very own private tour, and we went across the street. Yeah, right over there. Great little coffee shop cafe place right there, right in the center of the screen. I'll put up another video about that place. But we ended up having a really nice day just hanging out here and doing the mine tour for what that's worth. This was a lot of fun. Nick Sturgill basically runs the whole place, and he is a source. He is the source of for some material in a couple of ghost books. The Ghosts of Portal 31 by Darla Saylor Jackson and Tony Filosi. He would tell me some ghost stories later on. Great guy.
Yes.
And he has some great stories. We'll probably hear some. I'm going to quit talking and let you just sort of ride through the ride with us. Nick will do some talking. There's going to be some animated people doing some talking. Again, this was a really cool attraction. And I'm kind of wanting to do it again in the very near future. We had a good time. Nick was a great host. Check this out, though. Let me know what you think.
Sure.
But just be aware this thing does ride a little bit rough. It is
Cool.
going to be some bang, jerk, and pull a little bit. So just make sure and hold on to your camera.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate that warning. We maybe try to get a picture or two.
Everybody in, keep your arms and legs inside. Remember, safety first. As you can see from these posters, it's our motto here in Portal 31. Always has been since the mine first opened up in 1917. I'm Mike McKenzie. They call me Mac for short. I'll be your guide for today. Up front is our motorman. He's driven this route so many times that he could do it with his eyes closed. This is a good thing because it gets pretty dark back in some of these tunnels. Don't worry, he's got it under control. Now, just so you'll know, we'll be going not just through the mine, but back in time. This mine opened in 1917. The mine in the surrounding town of Lynch was built by a company called U.S. Steel. At the time, U.S. Steel was one of the biggest corporations in the world, and they needed coal to fuel their steel plants in places like Pittsburgh, Birmingham, and Gary. They discovered that the coal here in this part of Kentucky was some of the best for steel making, so they built this town and opened this mine. By the time Portal 31 was closed in 1963, millions of tons of coal had been hauled out through the tunnel we're sitting in right now. Okay, everybody ready? Arms and legs inside. Safety first. Remember, it's the miner's motto. Visit some of the miners and see how the movement has changed. Stop. And he immigrated here with a lot of other miners from Italy and over 32 other countries. They came here looking for a better life.
Okay, Nelly, let's take a little break. Coming to America, it was a good thing I did. Even so, it was hard. So many, Mom, Papa, Giuseppe, Amelia, they are still insisting. I'm afraid I will never see them again. But my darling Maria and the bambini, they won't have to live the way we did there. Back home, we work all day in the fields, in the hot sun. The bosses, the gabellocchi, stood over us with guns, and each harvest they cheated us out of the grain we grew. And when the wheat prices went down, we starved. They treated us like animals, worse than animals. But here in America, it's good. So what if I have to buy my own tools and cutlass? The work, she is steady. The mind, she is cool and safe. You see to that, don't you, cantante? As long as I can hear your song and know I'm safe.
Hey, Joseph, did your lights go out too?
Not to worry, my young friend. You see, they're back now already.
Sure enough, and I'd be glad when that permanent light plant's up and running.
Oh, yes, light is good. Lynch will be the first mine with electric all the time.
What do you say we have lunch together, Joseph? I'll come out to you, okay?
See, maybe there will be some lasagna from Maria for you. Once you have tasted Italian cooking, you will dream of nothing else. Life is good. Me, Joseph Marzelli, and mia famiglia. We have a house with electric lights. My bambino, Tony and Mario, their stomachs are full. They won't have to do what I did. To leave home at 12 so the others could have enough to eat.
Fire in the hole!
See, life is bellissimo. As long as I am careful and shore up the roof so it doesn't cave in.
Fire in the hole!
And watch my blast so all goes well. I hope to work here a long time and maybe save enough money to bring over my brothers and sisters.
Fire in the hole!
Easy, calmare. It's all right. Aren't you used to that noise yet?
As we move on, so is time. Our next stop, years here, Riding here at Corporate One is going deeper and deeper right now. And more coal is pouring out. We're changing how mining is being done. In 1929, this just gives some shovels. Now, we're underground. It's a process called leaching. It's got 4 steps. But let's let Joseph explain them to you. Today, he's training a couple of new workers, and one of them just happens to be his own son, Tony.
Hey, Pop. Hey, Pop. Joseph, is that you?
See, Antonio, it's me. Who is that with?
This is Henry Birch. He's from Birmingham.
Hey, hello, Henry. Welcome. Is this your first time in the mine?
Yes, sir. And this one is nice. When my family moved here from Alabama, my daddy said he worked in the mine so long, he had to pack his lunch in a tackle box so he could use the side doors to hold his sandwiches. Yeah, yeah. I bet he and the guy rats got real friendly. Tony here tells me that you're going to show us the ropes.
This is true. Soon you will know this mine like the street you live on. Now, let me show you the 4 basic steps. And Tony, what is the first one?
Sound on the roof. You treat it with respect. Always. Especially when you get to a new spot. Did you hear that tapping sound as we were coming down here? That was me sounding the roof. I was showing Henry here how to do it.
How did you show him?
Like this. And how you use your free hand to feel for any vibration. And if you feel a vibration, or if you hear a hollow sound, then you've got a roof that might give on you. You've got to brace that up before you do anything else. Yeah. I've tried it a few times to try to get the hang of it. It seems like a mighty important skill to have.
Oh, you bet. The roof is important. You should have seen a former lawyer last week when they carried them out. They'd gone into an empty tunnel to eat his lunch, and the roof fell in on him and broke his collarbone. Now, his 6 kids, they'll be hungry for a while. You boys must always remember, respect the mine.
So, when the roof is good, sound, then what?
Then you make an undercut with the cutting machine.
And after you make the undercut, you come along and drill several holes with the drill, like Papa's been doing. Then you put in the charge. That's right. And make sure you got plenty of cord. And step back plenty far away and let her rip. That's right. And after that, it's just a matter of putting the coal into the cars.
And you must always remember to fill them full. O'Toole some.
O'Toole's hung. O'Toole was the first mine superintendent here, and he didn't consider a car full until not another piece would sit on top. That's why they call it O'Toole's hung.
So, were you part of that group that made the world record in 23?
We mined more coal here in one day than anyone had ever mined anywhere else in the world.
There were over 1,500 people on payroll that day, and they mined 7,089 tons of coal. That's 4.8 tons per person. And they said that the train that carried all that away was over 1.5 miles long.
Oh yes, here at Portal 31, we know how to mine the coal. You too will become good miners.
A lot of miners like Tony and Henry came and went through this mine. Times got pretty tough in the 30s. It was the Great Depression. It was the worst in 1932, when we might only work 2 days and 2 weeks. But U.S. Steel gave us credit at the company store, the United Supply Company, and we all grew gardens. I think I heard there were 900 of them. So we survived, and finally, mining picked up. The 30s were hard in other ways, too. At the time, there was a lot of union organizing going on down here. But U.S. Steel wanted to keep the union out of Lynch. If you tried to join, they'd likely throw you out of town. But the organizers kept coming right back. We finally organized with the United Mine Workers in 37 and had our first strike in 39. Our next stop is 1943. Lots of things have changed. For one thing, the country's at war, and everyone is pitching in to help the war effort. You can hear the change. It's much noisier. The equipment is bigger, and there's a lot more of it. Underground telephones, bunkers, coal haulers, and the latest mining innovation, the conveyor belt. Also, miners don't work alone anymore. Even old-timers like Joseph now work in crews. And several crews now work for a foreman. But safety is still our number one concern. That's what you're going to see first. Men installing Brattisclaw, measuring the airflow, and roof bolting, part of the safety precautions that are now an everyday part of mining. You'll see what I mean.
There, Ben. Hold it there. Okay. I got my side braced. You get yours.
Got it. Now let's test it. Hiram, how's the airflow?
Oh, let me see. Looks good. I think that did. That should be the last one we need in this section. Splatters and the new fans should bring in enough air for the new time.
Man, this mine's getting big. Hope we can get the air back far enough.
We can do it. We always have before.
Yeah, this mine just keeps growing. It opened because they needed coal to make steel from the First World War. Now they've got us working 7 days a week to get enough fuel for this World War. You ever think about that?
I'm mostly just thinking about putting my pillow under my head.
You done over there, Ben?
Roof falls have always been a major cause of death and injury. These new roof bolts are steel. They work like the toggle bolts you might use around the house. You drill them in, and as you pull the drill out, they'll spread out and hold the roof. They make the job a whole lot safer.
Can you help me with surgery here? I'm trying to talk some sense here. The knucklehead won't admit that joining the union has been a good thing. Ever since we signed with the United Mine Workers in 37, we've had better, safer working conditions. not to mention better pay.
Yeah, when you are working. We had 6 strikes this year. I don't call being out of work. Strike wages, good pay.
But now we got a chance to move it up. Before the union, there was no way management was going to let a colored man do anything but junk work. But with the union, I've got a chance. If I can do the job, I can make a better wage.
Hey, you stop here, son. You don't make a better say it now, son. When this war going on, we all need to pitch in. Do what we can. Did you hear the latest number? 431 down about 1,000 men since last year.
Don't we know? That's less than 3,000 of us now. And more are leaving to join every day. You know Billy Marzella, Joseph's grandson. The minute he got out of high school, he signed up. He's on his way to the Pacific right now.
You know, I've thought about it myself, but I'm 38, just too old.
Not too old, man. The reason they won't let you join is because you've been a miner so long. They need you here in the mine. Somebody's got to provide the fuel for the factories so we can win this war. That's our job.
Got it. That one will hold for sure. It felt pretty solid.
And those steel bolts will last forever.
Yeah, this is a lot better than the old post and pin method. Can you remember how hard it was to set those posts by yourself?
Oh man, what a back break. But with these roof bolts, unless there's a mountain pump, they'll hold a lot of weight.
And we'll have a lot fewer roof falls.
So, sir, you think we can set 3 more before lunch?
I'm game if you are.
See you tonight at the game?
I'll be there. I want to see that new creature they got in the area. I hear he's something.
Boy, do we need it. It's about time somebody showed over to get on. They're going to be there 3 games tonight.
You better believe they're going to break that streak.
You got that right. You know these 9-hour shifts are great. Now we got time to do stuff. Like go to baseball games.
Unless you're also stepping in the night shift.
Well, we won't have double shift forever. Not once in a while, though.
Yeah, thanks to the union. Kept me everywhere going on its own. Shorter days, hospitalization. The good old UMW, they sure made it happy.
So please, you like these new shipping bills. This should be the hand road.
You say that again. They're slicker than breeze lightning. They really get the job done fast.
They make it kind of like a factory, don't they? Just moving the coal along. All we gotta do is roll it up.
And keep it fed. Hey, you folks have got to back up. We gotta get these cars out of here. Don't you know there's a schedule to keep? We've gotta help win this war.
You know how many days we was out on strike last year?
No, but I have a feeling you're gonna tell me.
64. 64 days I could have been making money. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay here. I think I just might join my brother and his family up in Detroit. The work's steadier there.
They have unions up there too.
But there's a war on. Do you really think we should be stopping work to go on strike?
Good point. By the way, I heard your little brother was thinking about enlisting.
Bobby? He's been talking about it a bunch. He's thinking about trying to qualify for sharpshooting. He'd be good at it too, all the squirrel hunting he's done.
Fact was, lots of miners weren't allowed to enlist during World War II. Mining was a protected industry. That meant you were exempt from the draft when your skills were needed for the war effort at home. And after November of 43, unions weren't allowed to strike. But the Iggy's-Lewis Agreement gave miners some benefits, like a 9-hour portal-to-portal day. And it required the company, not the miner, to pay for tools, blacksmithing, lights, and other fringe benefits. But remember, the agreement also stated that because of the war, no strikes were allowed. It remained in effect until August 1945. As the years pass, the equipment is getting bigger, and Portal 31 is becoming more factory-like. Everything is run by schedule. Every man has a special job. Brakeman, mechanic, roof bolter, everybody working as a team. No more hand loading. Everything is becoming mechanized. Our next stop is 1960. 3 years before Portal 31 will be shut down forever. And there's a machine that's making big changes in how mining is done. It's a continuous miner. One machine that does the work that an entire crew did before. As with all equipment, especially heavy-duty industrial machines, maintenance is critical. And that's what's happening here. 2 men changing the cutting bits on a continuous miner.
I think that's got it. I sure hope that Brady learns how to stay on the top. He hits so much rock, he's wearing down these bits something fierce.
You think he would have learned that by now?
Oh well, old dogs and new tricks. Boy, Jim, I'm deep. Am I ever glad this shit's almost over? By the way, I heard somebody at lunch say that maybe we're done with continuous mining in this section.
That's right, Billy. This section's pretty well mined out, so we're going to move it to number 3 heading tomorrow.
You know, my daddy and granddaddy first mined these sections, and now we're pulling the pillars out. I'm a third-generation coal miner. Altogether, we've seen lots of changes here. My grandpa Joseph mined by hand with a pony team. My dad and his brother mainly worked conventional mining. By the time I started, it was machines like this one that did most of the work. And it seems like they just keep getting bigger and better.
And it's our job to keep them running. There's been other changes, too.
Yeah, like the pay. In 1918, when Grandpa Joseph started here, he got paid less than 50 cents for each ton that he mined. By the time he died in 47, miners were being paid hourly. I think it's about $1.60 per hour.
Joseph died of black lung, didn't he?
You know, he worked in the coal mines for 30 years. Most of that time, they didn't know what breathing coal dust could do to you.
Yeah, a lot of miners got black lung. We owe a lot to those guys.
You bet we do. Oh well, our shift's over. The crew in the next tunnel will be up and running any minute now. Time to get going.
As a matter of fact, that sound you hear now is the continuous miner at work in the next tunnel. It's pretty noisy, so be ready. But don't worry, we'll be safe.
This isn't the end of our story, but rather the beginning. The mountain itself has a story to tell, a very old story, one that takes us back to a time before the mountains were here, back to the very beginnings of our planet. Then there were no continents, no oceans. The young planet was a sea of molten rock, intense heat, and violent upheaval. But as it began to cool, it also began to rain, and much of the Earth's surface was covered by shallow seas. Life, as we know it, began. Slowly, over millions of years, vast swamps grew out of the seas, and then giant forests of mosses and ferns, all competing for light. Plants and animals lived and died, sinking to the bottom of the swamps. They carried with them stored energy from sunlight, now held captive in this decaying matter, buried in mud and sand, layer upon layer, year after year, for millions of years. But the Earth was still young. Land masses were still forming, ever changing. The sand and mud moved and shifted, and as more layers were added, their immense weight created enormous pressure on the underlying deposits, which over time formed various types of rock, as well as other formations, some energy-rich in composition, huge pockets of natural gas, vast deposits of oil, and countless seams of coal. This mountain, Black Mountain, is part of the Appalachian Mountain Range, one of the oldest in the world. These mountains were formed as the ever-shifting continental shelves of what are now known as Europe and Africa collided with North America. The unimaginable pressure created along fault lines caused land masses to shift up and slide, one over the other, and as a result, mountain ranges were born. Black Mountain was born, reaching for the sky. So what was once beneath the swamplands now surrounds us. The tunnel we are now in once held a rich seam of high-grade coal. Time passed, millions upon millions of years. The Earth continued to evolve. Millions of species of plants and animals evolved as well. And man, with the abilities of reasoning and conscious thought, would begin to relate to the world around him. For thousands of years, mankind would use what was on the earth for food, shelter, and fuel. But with the birth of the industrial age came the need for new sources of energy, a need that would inevitably lead us to search under the ground, to places where vast energy resources have been stored through the millennia. The search for coal would eventually lead here, to this place in the Cumberland Valley, to Black Mountain, the source of a multitude of high-grade coal veins reaching from here to West Virginia. A search for the vast human resources needed to mine the coal would begin as well. Adventurous men, who would be a match for the mountain, who possessed the courage and physical toughness required to explore the ancient depths of Black Mountain in the search for coal. Beginning in 1917, this area would become home to thousands of miners and their families. The first to come were native to the region, men who were already familiar with the challenges of life in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Of these, many were also veterans of the First World War. Soon, thousands more would immigrate to Black Mountain from 37 countries, from continents around the world. Those same continents that were formed when the earth was young, when the Appalachians first rose to the sky. They built a town and created a community. And for much of the 20th century, they lived their lives and worked here on this mountain. A mountain that would yield over 80 million tons of coal by the middle of the century. For some miners, Portal 31 was the portal to a new country and a new way of life. For others, it was the portal to prosperity, raising their children and grandchildren, some becoming miners themselves, some seeking other opportunities in the Cumberland area and in the cities beyond. But wherever life may lead them, they carry the...
I hope you enjoyed it. I know I'll never get tired of traveling through this mine. The last coal was mined here in 1963. After that, mining was done in Portal 32, higher up on Black Mountain. Altogether, 1917 and 1963, over 120 million tons of coal were mined in Portal 31. Now, at the time they closed Portal 31, U.S. Steel sold the houses to the miners. Many were able to buy their homes for less than $1,000. By 1963, Lynch had its first elected city council, so it was no longer a company town, but an incorporated city with over 1,000 residents. Today, most of the mineral rights and the 19,000 acres of land that were owned by U.S. Steel are owned by the ACIN Corporation, LLC. Mining still goes on in the region, but there's less room in the pillar mining, like we've seen here in Portal 31. Technology has progressed so that most of today's coal mining is done by longwall mining, strip mining, and mountaintop mining. You know, in the 46 years that this mine was open, it played a pretty big part in helping create the industrial might of America in the 20th century. It helped to win 2 world wars. The tipple here was once the largest in the world, and in 1923, the miners set a world's record for coal tonnage mined in one day. A lot of strong, brave, and hard-working men spent the better part of their lives in this mine, and it's been nice to have had the opportunity to share a part of their story with you today. The Kentucky Coal Museum and Mine Tour is a tribute to their efforts. And now let's just sit back and enjoy the ride back to the port. You know, sometimes when I listen real close, I feel like I can hear the mine speaking. Or maybe it's just a whisper of thousands and thousands of stories that the miners share with each other. They made their way into the mountain mine.
Wow. All right. Whew.
Yeah, that was great. Nick kind of stepped on the gas there towards the end, making this kind of a thrilling ride. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Sorry about the audio between the sound effects, the recordings, and the little cart we were in. Well, things weren't perfect, but it was good.
This place is massive. You actually sit down where I'll give you an idea.
Yeah.
This is just a third of mine. About 30% of it. Of course, these are all tunnels. We're right here in the entryway,
And how far do we go?
right there.
Oh, come on. Let's go. Let's go explore the rest of it today. You're free, right?
When I was a kid, we used to be able to get back right around here.
Was that like trespassing kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Or okay, okay.
Oh, yeah. Stupid trespass.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But there's a dip right through here where the coal seam dips down and then it comes back up, but that bottom layer was always full of water. We never could get past that, which thank God the water was there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. That's the stuff. I love caves. I love things like this. I couldn't do any wild caving, or I have nightmares about squeezing through little holes and things like that.
That caving stuff that I see them do is just,
Yeah.
I'm not claustrophobic, but I'll be doggone if I'm going to squeeze myself.
Oh my
into it.
gosh. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not, no, not me. Even coal mining, I'll go in any mine you want me to. But these mines that they call dog holes, where they're mining 24-inch seams,
Oh.
and the tunnels are about 26 inches.
Yeah.
You're laying on your side all day. No, I'm not doing that. I'm too big.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and we've explored.
Before, this is the actual coal seam.
Yeah.
That's what's called a pillar. And that's all these squares that you see, those are pillars. And that's coal that's actually still intact.
Oh.
Because this is what's called room and pillar mining. The room's your tunnel. And the pillar, that's your coal. And when you do room and pillar, you can only mine out 30 to 50% of the coal. So they took 120 million tons out of here, and this mine's history, there's every bit of that much still left in here.
Would there be a need would there be any reason to try to get it?
The only way that you can get that coal is to do what's called retreat mining. And what they'll do when they mine this out, like it's mined, they'll go to the farthest point, and working backwards, they'll pull those pillars out. And you purposely let the mountains collapse.
Yeah.
Now, the only time you do that, you can't have any more than 500 feet of overburden above you. Or there's 1,750 here. Plus, there's two other mines above us, one below us.
Okay.
That's why they didn't pull the pillars.
But
leave the mountain intact.
I mean, but financially, it wouldn't be worth it to get in there at this point.
No way. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars just to get this rehab where you could retreat on it.
Are there any colleges or researchers that still try to go through there, or is it just? It's just I don't know if there was any value to.
They used before they started doing tours and stuff here. They used to do mine rescue training and stuff.
Oh, okay. But now there'd be there's no ecological or even
have any big mine rescue teams around anymore.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's crazy thinking about. Like that's something that would have been so important at one time, and now it just doesn't exist.
The local community college down here, they used to have every year they would have a national mine safety rescue competition. I think at its height you had about 150 teams, and that was from all across the country. They quit having it about 5 years ago because they didn't have any teams showing up. It may be. I'm not sure.
But nationally, that I know of off the top of my head, there's 4 that I know of, national mine rescue teams that will actually go across the country. I mean, there used to be 5 alone in Harlan County.
Yeah.
Now there's not any. I can't. In a room and pillar mine, you're going to have tracks going left and right. You at least every 80 to 100 feet. You have to stop at every one of those.
So their workday would start 3 hours just to ride in.
Well, prior to them unionizing, your day didn't start until you got to the face.
So you didn't get paid for that 3-hour travel time.
Now, when they unionized, that changed. You got paid portal to portal. So as soon as you entered the portal, you started getting paid. And even today, it takes quite a while to get back to some places. And you may only work in an 8-hour workday. You may only really work about 5 hours because of your travel time. I worked at a mine in Alabama. We were down over 3,000 feet and we're still going back 9 miles. And that was taking us a little over an hour. Yeah.
Did you have any scary moments?
Besides the river that we were mining under, busting through and flooding the mine. That's why I came back up here, is because they completely shut our mine down.
What? Nobody was there when that happened?
Third shift was. Yeah. Second shift had actually broke into it just to where it started leaking. Of course, they stopped and pulled back out, but third shift was in there, and I knew a couple of those guys really well, and they said it sounded like a freight train coming from the back of the tunnel, and it was just a wall of water. Thank God they were able to get out. It didn't kill anybody.
Oh my God!
It didn't kill anybody. But they shuttled that mine for about 2.5 years before they could get it fixed to be able to mine again. Of course, that's when the industry really bottomed out. So I never went back to mine again.
Well, good.
Yeah, it's.
Jeez.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, once you do it, there's just something about it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was hard.
Yeah.
Good pay and camaraderie amongst the guys.
Yeah.
There's just only other job I can compare to that's the military.
Yeah.
Like, honest to God, it's the only other one.
In Western Kentucky, I know there was a lot of it going on. I grew up even not that far from Muhlenberg County and all that.
It's picked up the last 2-3 years. It's picked up more here in Eastern Kentucky than it had in the previous 20 years combined. But they're running coal right now like crazy.
Oh, just a resurgence and
it's all being exported. China, India, and Australia is buying every bit of it. Australia's actually opened a couple mines around here. There's one on the backside of this mountain.
Oh.
Yeah, and honestly, I enjoyed talking to Nick so much, I kind of neglected to film at a correct camera angle. Great guy, telling us some great stories. I hope you listened to that. If you didn't catch that, he was showing us a map, which was 1/3 of the map of Portal 31. And we only went in just barely into the whole portal. And he when he was younger, he was talking about trespassing in there. Funny story, how kids sneak into places. Other great stories too about search and rescue teams that have kind of gone defunct in the area. Used to be competitive, but they're just not needed anymore. Of course, they have a cool little museum gift shop. We stopped here. I dropped some coin. Lots of cool stuff in here. Nick told us some other great stories too about working in a mine. I think he said in Alabama, where there was a leak and they had to, luckily everybody survived,